Here you go. Welcome back to A Fine Time for Healing, a place where your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being are all that matter. So put your feet up, relax, and enjoy today's show. I think we all have a curiosity about dolphins. There's just something about them that we can relate so well to. And I think we're fascinated. Just knowing that they're mammals, but they're living in the water. And but I don't know that we know that much about them. And today we're going to be talking about dolphin consciousness, believe it or not. And we have with us Daniela Bumann, who is a Swiss native based in California. She's a corporate consultant, international teacher, transformational speaker, life coach, and evolutionary consciousness guide. Her insights and teachings open new pathways for change, helping individuals tap into their spiritual potential and foster greater unity on earth. Welcome, Daniela.
Thank you so much, Randi. It's so wonderful to be on your show today.
It's wonderful to have you. So let's just dive in. All right. So first of all, we're going to be talking about
the dolphins like that. They like that a lot.
They like when you dive in. That's funny. That's so funny. Okay. So we're going to be talking about her book. It's always hard to get the right. Okay. Gliding You Home. Gliding You Home. There it is. Okay. So Daniela, what is dolphin consciousness?
Dolphin consciousness. Well, first of all, let's take a look at what is consciousness to start out with, right? So consciousness is a way of how the earth in herself and humanity evolves, right? So it's knowledge, but it's much more than knowledge. It's understanding, it's a perception, it's the culmination of wisdom, and in particularly in regards to the dolphin consciousness of eons of time, right? Because they have been with us for so long. Hence, they are the keepers of infinite ancient wisdom and intelligence that really has not been revealed before, right? So dolphin consciousness is an incredible culmination of understanding that doesn't just encompass the past, but the present and the future of where possibilities reign for us to go as humanity, and as they have chosen for those with the hearts to be open, the ears to hear, and the eyes to see, to lead us and guide us on a joyful, transformative journey.
Now, someone who has a hard time with the consciousness of dolphins and how you were able to tap into that would think, oh, did she go swimming with the dolphins? How did she connect with this? So what happened?
Yes. So what happened was I had a having when you go on a consciousness level as a human being, when we evolve, imagine when you evolve onto different levels of understanding, right? If you go back to the first humans on Earth, they had a different consciousness than we have now, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at that, and and just like a pilot, if you want to go higher, right, you have to take the plane, and you have to be able to get to those next stages in flight, right? And just that also affects the nervous system of the human. It can cause what's called ascension symptoms, physical symptoms. And so I, at the time, was experiencing a lot of physical symptoms and nervous system disturbances. So I was experiencing a lot of nerve pain, and I pretty much had reached my limit within that nerve pain, of being able to manage and regulate that pain. And now I've been on this journey for a long time in one way or another, but for me to say that is it really was like, I don't know what else to do. It was just too much. And so literally I was sitting on the couch and I was just allowing myself to completely let go. And as I did, I dropped into the consciousness of the dolphins, and they dropped into mine. And it literally felt like I was going down and down and down and down, like I was spiraling down. But it wasn't hard. It was soft. It was loving. And it was like I ever knew it would be. And they sort of picked me up and showed me a whole nother world and consciousness and understanding. And so they literally elevated, just like if you were to take a plane, right? If you're, pilots have to go through different levels and how high they can fly, or if they're taking a helicopter or a turbo or whatnot. And so they were taking me through these different levels and showing me a totally different world from which I never returned in the same way. And it was very loving. It was very, very, very palpable. And it was very joyful simultaneously.
That must have been so exciting for you.
It was very exciting, but it was also, when I came back from that experience, now for those of you that meditate, it wasn't like a meditation. It was literally, I slipped to the other side.
Yeah.
So it's very different. So when I came back, it was actually a very startling experience. It was like you come back and you're like, now this is all we got here. Like it was very startling. It took me about a year to assimilate and adjust what I had experienced, because when we release resistance, or as much ego resistance as possible, we go into the next phase of evolution, which can be either death or a near-death experience.
Okay.
So it took me a little while to assimilate that, but even at that, at the beginning, it was definitely very exciting.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. Did you know prior to this that there was such a thing as dolphin consciousness?
I did know about the dolphin consciousness, but not to that degree. I mean, when they were insisting that I would start writing and putting this information into the written word, I was like, you want me to do what? I'm a life and career coach, like I work with corporate people. You want me to do what? And so I've always been someone, though, that's felt very connected to Mother Earth and her people and her creatures and mammals. And so I'm a very interconnected being in many ways. And so right from the get-go, they were repeating the same words. The book is going to be about interconnected, interrelated, interwoven communication.
And it's interesting, when I first opened the book, I thought it was going to be poetry because it's written sort of like poetry. Why did you do that?
So they are wanting the human to slow down. Exactly. They are wanting the human to slow down their thinking. So, and also disrupt the normal pattern of how the brain works. So when you read one line, right, the slow down and deep search, Now you got to go to the next line of moving more than skin deep beyond the hecticness of what appears to us as erratic life will be essential, and the shuffling. So they each word they go to the next. So they work with rhythm, they work with flow, they work with creation. So there's a lot that happens within the book when you're actually reading it.
That's very interesting. So yeah, so that was actually I want to read that um, because I want to talk about it. The slow down and deep surge of moving more than skin deep beyond the hecticness of what appears to us as erratic life will be essential, and the shuffling, reorienting process will become more of a day-to-day experience as you are learning to create a different pace from which you perceptively think, conceive, move, and materialize into being. Okay, and I guess that's basically what you're saying. What is happening to humanity?
Well, the rhythms are pretty much thrown off at this point, you know. As you can see the nature, you can, you know, if you watch nature, sometimes you see certain species of birds in one area, and they really should be in a different area. Everything is sort of thrown off, right? And of course, part of that, it's, you know, the divine, it's the what's the saying? It's the organized chaos in some
Right.
way, right? It's the organized chaos. And so again, it's all about the disruption of the old rhythm, because just like the brain, when you're trying to establish a new habit within 33 days and you're doing something over and over and over, you're starting to create new neurons, new pathways, and then the brain will remember that, right? So in terms of the rhythm, again, our rhythm is changing, and of course the folks that are fighting it the most are going to have the most struggle, right? Because even the way we're doing things are changing. Like I just said earlier, being the life mastery coach, speaker, working with a corporate audience, also, you want me to do what? You want me to write this
Right.
book? Okay. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy.
Yes.
But it's about really listening to the call of the soul and to develop the courage and the bravery to listen to that rhythm, to that drum, where you can take that deep breath and you can drop into the seat of your soul, from which you can then direct your life independently of your position, whether you're in the corporate world or whatnot. Dolphins are not worried about roles or positions. They're more concerned about the unity.
Hmm. I think we can all feel the change happening, and people who happen to be energetically sensitive are probably feeling it the most right now. There's people that maybe feel it and don't understand what they're feeling. They just don't feel well. Um, but on the next page, 200, it says, "It is through the thick of your fatigue and exhaustion, especially if you're falling back to the same old way, where you start to surrender the pressure cooker of the old preconceived notions and patterns of how you may think. You have to still be human, subconsciously coerced by others, afraid you're breaking out of the old matrix. How you think, you have to act, whereby adjusting your behavior." Okay. There is a lot of fatigue and exhaustion in the human race. What are they
Yes.
saying here?
So they're saying that, what do you think they're saying?
Well, it's the it's an adjustment. It's through the changes, through the discomfort, that we are actually evolving as a species,
Right.
right? So that we can expect to feel these ways, which is not exciting news for most people, because we don't want to feel weird. We don't want to feel off. We don't want to feel tired
Yeah.
and worn out all the time.
Right.
But to know that there is a purpose for this and it's going somewhere, I think that's
Right.
really important.
And it's moving out of the automated thinking. It's moving out of autopilot into presence. And the dolphins flow. They're always in the flow. So you can't be in the flow and be in the future or in the past. And as a people, as humanity, we often create the present out of a past present reality, out of the past, not out of the present. So it is absolutely essential that that pressure cooker wears us in some ways down. Of course, to what extent is up to us, to what extent we allow that. There's always free will, but it's oftentimes, unfortunately, not possible in any other way. Just like a job, right? If somebody is at a job and they keep complaining about the same job for 5 years, eventually they will get fired, probably, and or they will choose to make a change. But oftentimes it's not until the pressure is intense enough for us to transform, right? And to turn from the caterpillar into the butterfly.
And I know that the communication that you had was meant for us, for humanity, for keepers of the earth. Um, did they say what it was like to be them?
Yeah, they did. Even though that wasn't their focus, they did, particularly at the beginning of, because they're really here to serve as the guides in this journey. But they did use examples. I think it's in the beginning parts of the book where they're talking about how they also have to adapt when they are suddenly when they're kept in captivity, or family members are in a different location than where they are. They have to adapt to that situation, but not just adapt to, this is where I'm at right now and I'm stuck, but to again evolve and go to that next level. So of course that's not that easy at times for them either. But their focus is always on the bringers of the present state, flow state, and the creativity and the manifestation that flows from it.
Right.
So it's for them, it's even within that, they are saddened at the circumstances that they had to endure in zoos or different in captivity. And yet, even at that, they don't fight against it. They don't push against it. They go with it. They go with it. Even at that, now they feel very deeply, and they're very community, they're very familial, they're very protective of their tribe, so to speak, if I want to use our terms. But they will evolve again with that and flow with it. That is a very unique trait that they have, that they will adapt and continue to. Their evolution is very broad.
This is so wonderful. So when you, so obviously they dictated this book to you, and because the messages are here that we're supposed to get, how did it feel for you? Were you intuiting it? Were you hearing it? How did you receive this?
For me, it was so So a little bit to their personality, they're very they're dynamos. They're absolute dynamos. They have an incredible um, fortitude in their presence, and they're very joyful and deliberate, and yet they are also very directive. They're very intense in many ways, and yet they're very joyful. And I think that's probably a reason why they picked me, because we think we maybe share those traits a little bit. But with that said, what was your question again?
How did you receive the information?
Oh yeah. So I received the information it was a very intense process. Basically, I started communicating with my editor, and so she goes, well, just start writing the first chapter. And so what I did is I sat down and I channeled the information. I basically got the outline for the whole book
Mm.
in the first sitting, and I send it back to her. She's a very experienced editor, and she replied back saying, "Well, looks like you got the whole outline." Smiley face. And so that's pretty much how it went. I felt them, I heard them, I sensed them, and it was a very intense experience. It really shook me in many ways to my core, because they moved through me with such a fortitude. And so there were times where I had to stop channeling them because their energy was so intense. And there was times where, being hypersensitive energetically, I became even more sensitized.
Mm,
And I was saying that to them, and they were telling me, "Isn't it wonderful? You can see the colors even brighter, and you can see this even better." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is, except I live on planet Earth."
right, exactly.
So it took a lot of doing for me physically. It took quite a bit out of me to go to that elevation, because it's like working with them. It's like, you know, they're they're not for the faint of hearted that way, so to speak.
Okay. Do they
Yes.
call themselves the Dolphins, or did they have another name for their consciousness?
I call them my posses. Yes.
Okay.
The big kahuna of the dolphins that would talk to me. That's kind of like,
The big kahuna. So there is a big kahuna. Is there like a god of the dolphins, or is it the same source that we have?
is there a god for the dolphins, or is it the same source? I don't know that they have a god, as the god is the light of consciousness that they transition through, that they shuffle through, almost like the waves when
Okay.
you see them on the ocean. And they are constantly adapting and evolving and changing.
Mhm.
So their God would be to be in tune with the rhythm and flow of the earth.
Right.
Is that, and the universe?
So when you say the big kahuna, where is the big kahuna, or is this just a big kahuna consciousness, not necessarily a big kahuna physical dolphin?
It is the consciousness.
Okay.
Well, it's the consciousness, but it is actually both.
Oh, okay. So there is one that is
Yes,
the leader,
yes. Hmm.
and that leader is able to communicate with dolphins everywhere.
Yes, they all feed from the same source. So they're not divided in the sense that we are, you
Okay.
know, like that we would look at a system.
Okay. So interesting. Um, and a lot of the things that I highlighted are really things we're talking about, like this quickening of our vibration, and the consequences of how it's going to feel in our work and life environment. Uh, that that's all going to fall apart. It's not going to withstand old structures, as they say, upon which your society and its infrastructure and your very life has been built. This is a hard concept for us to understand. Can you simplify it or not?
Would you, I probably can. Can you read just a little bit more for the audience
Sure.
and for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The structure has been built. It's page 206 and 207.
Okay.
The structure has been built on a system of control and empowerment of only a few for the love of power and not for the power of love. It is not serving the greater whole. And most of you were not privy or part of the mixing of these unequal currency trades, as everything has an energetic currency signature and upon which waters you have been served. So they're saying that this structure, which we assume is reality, and it's how we've adapted to function, is going to sort of fall away.
Yes. So exactly. And so we're, in many ways, your consciousness is going to determine whether you are a dummy in that structure. I'm saying that in quotation. Or what, or meaning automated, and you think you're making your actual decisions versus you are actually determining your reality, and you are consciously enacting who you are becoming, what you're doing next. You are a conscious, deliberate creator versus just enacting a play in which you are acting out, but falsely assuming that that's the role that you have chosen.
And then they go on to say on page 212, you will need to be willing to step out of your own way and surrender what you thought you were and let go of your old force states of doing and being you and your life and your work and your relationships. This is no longer about reprocessing, which is another way of keeping you status quo and stuck on the old infinity matrix. So not everybody will be willing, right?
Yes, not everyone will be willing, but everyone will, one way or another, have to find a new alignment, right? So it doesn't, everyone is on the journey, everyone is in the ocean of life in their own consciousness. If you imagine everyone has their own ocean of consciousness, right? Well, for some, everything is conflicting like this, all the viewpoints, the limiting beliefs. And
Right.
the more we end up, or you end up aligning with what feels right, so you can intentionally create your reality, the more you are going to flow within this new flow state versus forced state. So it's not about making it more complicated than what it is. But of course, there's always those folks that may be very gullible, right? Believing everything that's happening everywhere all the time, or what the government talks about all the time in every area. And I'm not making this political in any way, shape, or form. It's about looking at what is happening. Where are we in the mix, right? Who is throwing in colors? What political party is doing what's the government mixing and blending, and to what extent are we part of that or not, right? There have been many things that have been kept from us, that are now coming out. So the conspiracy theories, however, they're very clear. Their role is not per se to get involved in all of that, or taking even sides within all of that.
Right.
But to shake up the ocean enough to bring us back. Let's go over here. Let's go, right? That is, and then eventually even, oh, okay, now we got this one coming back in too high. It's right. It's all in, it's in the flow. It's not about fighting even political positions. It's way above that, because when your consciousness pivots, your entire life can change in a moment's time.
Very true. I think, like I said earlier, we're all feeling the change. We just don't understand it. And as beings of logic, it this is maddening. Trying to
Yes.
make sense out of
Yes.
complete nonsense is
Yes.
is maddening. And it's sort of really loosens your grip on what you believe, because there's nothing, we're losing the ability to hold on to what we used to hold on to, right? So it's nice to understand, and we should be very grateful to the dolphins for giving us this wisdom, that there is we're moving into something else, and it will be even better. That gives us hope. I think we need to know that this is not all for nothing.
Yes. Beautifully said. And that's beautifully said, Randi. Thank you. The part, there is actually what you just said reminds me of this part in the book called losing your mind, right? Because that is a part of the process, where you are feeling like you are losing your grip. And that is actually what happened to me. I've always been, from a very early age, a pursuer of human growth potential. That was just the ultimate passion. I always felt like we're doing this much and we really have so much that we can be part of. And in terms of our intelligence, again, but intelligence is very different than consciousness. Consciousness is endless. And so, when I went through this process, there was a lot of things that I had to reevaluate. And then I realized I couldn't even reevaluate them anymore because it just didn't fit anymore. So your term losing your grip is pretty much it. So you did kind of feel like you're losing your mind, and it creates a dissonance and a distortion between well, I wasn't that bad of a thinker, and then creates this distortion that it's within even the cells of your consciousness, of your body, that is changing, and the rate they're vibrating is changing, and so it creates this dissonance you can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
You've experienced it.
Yes, exactly. Can we tap into this
Into
dolphin consciousness?
Sure.
Anybody
Absolutely.
can.
Anybody can tap into dolphin consciousness. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. They just have happened to pick me to do this work because, for some reason they think I'm a flower of energy. So,
Okay.
but anybody can tap into. So what they explained to me at the beginning was, one of the reasons why they were working with me was obviously who I am as a human, as a spirit, and where I've evolved within my own consciousness and evolution. But they needed someone that could hold the multiple concepts with the grip of their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves, because that's how they are. They are vast, right? But independently of that, and so because they were interweaving so many concepts, as you have the book, Nancy, it's very there's a lot of information, a lot of teaching, but anyone really can tap into the spirit of the dolphin consciousness by allowing them to move into a relaxed state, and then inviting them into their life to guide the journey, to start to take over and guide the journey for them. So from that place, that's going to allow you to move past just, dolphins, but you are actually starting to see the bigger picture of who they are.
Right. Have they been trying to advise us, help our species? Have they been trying all these, thousands of years? And if so, have they contacted other people? And has anyone else shared these messages? Of course, they would be different at another time, right?
Right. They have held and actually the very first part of Here They Go, I think, where I talk about how the poem at the very beginning, Randi, they talk about that. They've been the keepers of this wisdom for a very long time. I don't think that they shared the information this particular information with anyone else. Not that they shared with. They have shared with folks about their information and the wisdom that they're sharing. However, like I mentioned, you have to be able to hold their energy. That was probably the biggest challenge for my human body, to hold their energy as I was writing down. And it is their book. I've referred to it as that many times. And they say, well, it's your book, it's our book. I'm like, well, no, it's your book. But you can contact him, but this information is not in any other place but here.
Okay. If we are near a dolphin and we are talking to them, do they understand us? Do you know?
I think yes, they read our vibration.
Okay.
So they read our vibration, just like a radio station. Whether you're hard rock or you're 99 or you're 94.4 the wave, or you're the classical, you're like, they read vibration of the vibration of joy. Like joy has a certain vibration. The vibrate, there's multiple, obviously, if you take all the different feelings, right? I work through the feelings with my clients. If you work through these feelings, every feeling has a vibration, every thought state has a vibration, every consciousness state has a vibration, right? If you're dwelling more in the past or the future, and there's kind of a gap here in the middle, there's nobody present, so they read that. Yes, they do read that very clearly, but it's pretty much a straight line for them. They can just sense that from you.
Interesting. On page 216, you bring up the Schumann resonances, which are the measure and capture of the global electromagnetic resonances generated and excited by lightning discharges in the Earth's cavity formed by the Earth's surface and ionosphere. Okay, so put that into words that we can understand. The Schumann's resonance, what is that?
Yes. So have you ever been in a situation, Nancy, where one day you're waking up and you just feel really out of sorts? Like there's really no reason, logically speaking, you're not necessarily upset or depressed, or there's nothing really happening in your work life. You're just feeling off, right? So again, going back to my beautiful Mother Earth, we all share living on her planet. that Schumann resonance is a culmination of all these vibrations and frequencies. And, of course, within the Earth's cavity herself. And so we are part of that. So whether we know it or not, we respond to that. And so it affects us, that Schumann resonance. So I had to come to realize a few years back ago that I got increasingly sensitive to the Schumann's resonance, that I could have a day where I would wake up and I would feel very discombobulated. And that's pretty much a good word to use. I hate to admit it, but it's the truth. Where I would just feel discombobulated, and there wasn't even much I could do except trying to really center and ground myself, and to not, over obsess until it again shifted gears. So we're all affected by the Schumann's resonance on that the Earth cavity holds. And so within that, again, it shows us that we are a unity, that we're creating a unity one way or another way, no matter what way we want to look at it, because that's the culmination of the vibrations.
Interestingly enough, I think that happened to me overnight and today.
Oh.
Because often, if I have someone on who's very connected spiritually or energetically or whatever, it often influences the show, and it can influence me too. So last night, I was so off and there was no reason for it. I kept waking up, and I woke up this morning and I don't know where my center is. I really don't.
Sorry.
I know. So thank you, Dolphins. You're showing me what this feels
Yes.
like. I believe. I do believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that, because that's basically exactly what happened. So working with them literally has been, they sweep in, I sweep out, and they just move through the writings. And it all was actually, when I would write, translating what they were, it's literally, they're speaking and I'm just translating. Okay. I barely could keep up. So it just shifts and changes everything. And what you thought you knew, you don't, because it's already changed over here.
Mhm.
And so it's so the dolphin consciousness, as joyful as they are master consciousness creators. And they know how to pivot and flip and ripple and dive and spiral. It's part of their flight. It's part of their flight. And the thing that they also share, they're wanting me to say, is they're not attached, because they know when the large spreads out, the pieces are going to have to find themselves to come back together.
Interesting. I'm looking. I'm like, okay, where is the, am I being contacted? I don't know. Okay.
You're doing great, Randi.
Thank you. I'm tapping into something. I'm not sure what. They talk about that the most crystalline frequency. This is on page 219. It says the restructuring of the new energy started quite some time ago, and when you pay attention, you feel it in a myriad of ways right inside of your body being, as you will learn more about this throughout the guide before you. Its intensity is palpable and not for the faint of heart, but loving at its core, since it has the most crystalline frequency accelerating Earth's vibration dramatically. What is a crystalline frequency?
Well, there's many different frequencies, many more than I'm even aware of, and I claim to know. So a crystalline frequency is definitely very different than some of the other frequencies that exist, because it's much cleaner and it's much pure, from which the vibrations can resonate out into the ethers of time. And so, again, all about the restructuring of that new energy, and the myriad of ways in which it affects us, again, inside the body. The body is very much a part of that, very much part of that. And so, paying attention when you feel a myriad of ways right inside of your body, like we were talking earlier, Randi, thinking that you know what you know that you know, right? And then realizing it's not so. So I'm still working with that within the work that I'm doing, because the way I used to, I'm very intellectual, and at the same time I'm very left-brained, and I'm also very right-brained. Okay, so that could be good.
Mhm.
It can also be challenging. So, but point being, my left-brained part of the brain, I really have been needing to restructure in terms of how I'm doing my work now with anyone I work with. You see what I'm saying? So if
Mhm.
we take a really practical example to when I'm working with a client, or even I'm speaking, it's coming from a different place now, and I can't go back to the way I did it, and I'm not quite where I want to be, even though they claim, I guess I am, but it doesn't feel that way to me just yet. So it, within that crystalline structure that is feeding a different vibrational pattern, it allows us then to go to that next level.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was very surprised. On 221, they talk about the COVID-19 pandemic. This is amazing. They are really with us. And
Yeah.
so, how do they explain that?
Well, good.
221, 221.
Yes. So within the pandemic, big part of what they're saying, what they're talking about there again, is the shakeup. The shakeup between the love of power versus the power of love, right? And the shakeup. And again, consciousness being a guiding light, but what kind of consciousness? And so within the COVID-19, that the critical mass, who is the critical mass? Whomever is watching or listening, I'm asking you, are you part of the critical mass? Are you one that looks at your trajectory and where you're going consciously within this current state of being, or are you still working from a past state of consciousness, projecting into the future? So when you're willing to go into the present state of consciousness and to go through all it takes to move through that next level, that's where you can move from oppression, suppression, to transformation, to then loosening the grids of what has had a hold on you, or what you perhaps thought you were victim to. Where, go ahead.
I was going to say, so they're saying basically it was a almost, I'm going to use the word stimulus because, and that's kind of funny because of the stimulus money. But anyway, it was kind of a stimulus for us to sort of find our place in this.
Yeah.
Rather than just following the masses, following control,
Mhm.
and for us to find our way on our own with all that going on anyway. Is that kind of what they're saying?
Yes, yes. So, do you mind if I read a little bit of something here?
No, not at all.
Your COVID-19 pandemic, produced by fear primarily by those seeking foremost control and suppression over others, defying gravity and the natural law of unity, no longer permitted, and the power and the love of power instead of the power of love. This, whereby now mass control and manipulation has reached across your planet to deeply transform the unawakened, perhaps at times as by a shrill alarm going off, demanding your attention, and further loosening up the grids for even greater reawakening and realignment for those just waking up from the dream state, believing it was real, functioning within their man-made 3D movie, thinking or hologram, or sleeping human. With the speed of the Concorde, which was the fastest transatlantic plane, now retired, for example, eroding the old as she was flying through it. There's no comparison, however, for this aptitude and necessary restructuring of energy current upon your planet and within your human species, including Earth and the animal kingdom, for its survival and highest evolution to come back together as the new Earth and the new human in the making.
And it really did divide humanity. It really, really did. The stances were so opposing.
Yes.
And there was a lot of fear that was created. So if you're a fear-based person, this can really dig you deeper into it. I'm not a fear-based person, so I never bought into the fear of it. But this explains so much. It really does. I also wanted to ask you, I mean, they're tapping into everything about us and lots of questions that we have. And on page 231, they talk about the plethora of vaccinations that have been created for our domesticated animals, and the folks that subscribe to the majority of them have in addition been altered and weakened. Much compassion paired with education is necessary in this area, not just from their human companions, but regarding veterinary study and holistic healing. I believe this.
Yes.
I do believe this.
Yes.
Do they, I don't remember what you said in the beginning. Do they subscribe to conspiracy theory? In other words, are they saying that this is in fact a conspiracy that we need to be aware of?
No, that's not what they're saying.
Okay.
What they're saying is that the culmination of consciousness has now reached a critical point in which had to be reached one way or another. And so now this is giving just enough stimulus to the people, right? Like, I'm not a fear consciousness person either. I walk about my business like I always did, much more careful, but and so within it, it's giving people the opportunity to really look and review, but they're not necessarily about a particular political stance or this. That's not even how they see it. They see it as part of the global mix.
Okay.
which now triggered this reaction for people to finally wake up from a certain dream state in order to find out, well, is that really real or not?
They talk about climate change on 237. This is a very controversial topic as well. They say entire ecosystems are collapsing, forced into deep inner and external transformation, including its inhabitants. People and animals are suffering and dying, and you are approaching mass extinction, yet you still feed the love of power, money, and control instead of the power of love, okay? They say we're facing extinction. What do they mean by that?
Well, I think what they mean by that the way, COVID-19 has shook up all of us. Like I'm Swiss. So, I can talk to my siblings in Europe or friends and relatives and find out what's been happening. I really hear both perspectives. It shook all of us up, right? And it really woke up different perspectives. What are you talking about? You're getting vaccinated? You're not getting vaccinated? Like, I mean, it shook things up like more than anything else. And people also going against each other now versus it's already doing the work of unifying while it's getting rid of the disunity, where who are you? Like, I personally have never been one that I don't care what political affiliation you have, as long as you let me have mine and we can respect each other, we're good, right? And for me, this goes in every area, whether it's political or you're vaccinated or not, whatever that is. So again, you're the ability to merge together as one, while everything, I see this funnel is filtering through and goes out. That's not supposed to be here. So, there's always a choice within our extinction, and so right now the evolution, really our soul is, in quotation, kicking into survival mode. Okay. Like, who is surviving here? Is it the ego? Or is it the soul? And you're going to start directing your life from the seat of your soul in the most practical ways. I'm not talking necessarily highfalutin metaphysical ways. I'm talking from day to day to day to day. So hence the mass extinction, it's always a choice. It depends on the critical mass choices we're going to make. But it has been determined that over the next few years still, there are some critical points that we'll be arriving at as humanity as a whole, where the critical masses are going to, it's going to be all put together like little buckets. It's going to see what mass is where. And all of us individually are contributing to that. Every single person. You are as important, Randi, as somebody else. Everybody is adding to that. Every single person ripples. If you look at the water, if you take a stone, you throw it into the water, it ripples out. Everything ripples out. So they're not necessarily worried about the extinction, because they know it's going to take its flow and it's going to go whatever way it needs to go. Of course, that's their perspective.
Right, that's their perspective. So reading this book, is this a way for people to begin downloading this information for themselves?
Absolutely. This book has been written in such a way, also with all the beautiful drawings it has in it. It's definitely been written to be a guide. of consciousness through your evolution of consciousness, and to help you pivot from the different states. It's also what they do not recommend is for you to think that you can read it from beginning to the end, because it's just not going to happen. But you can actually use it as an oracle if you choose to, and which I didn't realize until I did it, and it will land right on the right page. And they recommend that you read, basically you go to whatever calls to you the most, and you read that part of the book, and then you kind of sit with it. Like at the very beginning of the book, there are some steps on how to make the best use of reading this book, and then also utilizing the information, because it's meant to be tangible for you and practical for you. And so that's why at the very beginning, these steps are inside the book in order to help you make it integrated into your day-to-day life. But it's a book of hope. It's a book of joy. It does address reality as it is, as we've just talked about. So
I just want to read one more passage before we end, because we're pretty much at the hour, but page 259, this is a great passage. As people upon your human path, you have been trained and also trained others to walk a path of resistance, having lost your authentic, sentient confidence, feeling, and meaning. And the path of resistance is always paved with lots of stones, rocks, and pebbles to be thrown out in order to clear the road of eternity on your way home to your soul destiny. Yet it's not like the river, finding a path of least resistance around its rocks that may seem to threaten your human life. But this position of your resistance appears to be an honorary one, to take the hard road. Upon your path of ascension, it is of utmost importance for you to internalize the principles, understanding, and the wisdom that there is no glory found in the hard road. Okay. This really resonates for me because I truly believe in giving up resistance in most ways. I truly believe that stops our flow of everything. That stops our evolution, our personal evolution. It stops our ability to move forward in life, to grow, to change. And I often use the analogy for people that don't get it, because this is not something everybody gets, but I often use, pretend you're a fish in the ocean and go with the flow. Now, dolphins are not fish, we know this, but the analogy is very similar.
yes, exactly. So they really wanted to make a point with that just keeping your nose to the grindstone, it's not an honorary position. And yet, as again, this is part of even the programming and how we've been raised, and how the human tends to find value at doing that versus what calls to the soul, that inspires the action into alignment and flow, minus the resistance.
Gotcha. Is there going to be, are you downloading more information now?
I'm intentionally not.
I can understand that.
Because they're always with me, but this is gonna sound funny because it's kind of like I would talk with people, but if I give them just a little leeway, if I give them a finger, that's literally what it feels like to me, and I love them to pieces, but it's like they're dynamos, and so they just, and again, all of this has to be translated in ways are palpable and that can still
Mm.
be internalized and practical. And of course, they leave that task up to me.
Oh, wow. So it comes sort of in pieces and you have to put it all
Uh,
together?
well, no, if I were to do some more at this point, what I'm saying,
Mhm.
this, I dedicated a big part of my life to writing this. But now, I am working with the teachings of the book in my coaching work, in my speaking work, and also, together with my first book, which is High Performance Without Pain, a 7-step blueprint to reclaim your vibrant life and get even more done. And that was the prelude to this book, because that first book was actually also about letting go of resistance, right? So that's why at this point, I have plenty of material that I'm working with, why I'm not channeling more material.
Okay.
Because like I said, I could just take a few minutes and they'll be right there for me with I have certain assignments that they're wanting me to do with the work.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They gave me those assignments right from the get-go. And my answer was, you guys are crazy.
Do they have a sense of humor?
Oh yeah, they
Okay.
definitely have a sense of humor. Yeah, they're playful, so they're joyful.
Okay.
They're playful, and so they definitely have a sense of humor. But yeah, they're very, like I said, they're loving, they're joyful, and they're very directive. They definitely have the idea of what I ought to be doing with the work, and I keep on moving forward with it together with my other work, trying to bring it all together.
Mhm. So, how can we visit you? What is your website?
So my website is vibrantlivingnow.org, and that's .org, not .com, vibrantlivingnow.org. And I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, on the different uh, social media channels. And there is plenty of information on the website regarding my work, my books, my coaching, my being a keynote speaker. So there's a lot of information right on there. The books are available on Audible also. This book I've actually narrated myself,
Really?
which uh,
That's difficult.
have you tried? So yeah, yeah, okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
decided not to do it. I decided to hire somebody. This is really hard to do.
It is. So with my first book, High Performance Without Pain, I hired someone to do it. This was also a bestseller. And with my second book, I ended they I really wasn't given a choice. So, it was very clear that I had to narrate this book. And
Okay.
yeah, so it is available. What I actually recommend is to have the hard copy, because with this book you need the hard copy. It's available in ebook format, paperback, and hardcover.
Okay.
I love the hardcover because of the complexity of the book and the
Mhm.
drawings and everything. But if you read in the book and you listen to the audio, it's like a double effect, double whammy, so to speak. And in the way that they have me read the book, it's very melodic. And so again, it weaves through your
Oh,
consciousness.
wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like a very, very fulfilling experience. So thank you. Oh, well,
You're welcome.
Daniela, thank you so much for being my guest today. I've really enjoyed this topic, and I'm so happy to meet the dolphin consciousness.
Me too. Aren't we grateful to have them, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and I'm very grateful to you, Randy, to give us the opportunity to be on your podcast and to share about this. And I can tell how they did start working with you ahead of time, and just from how thorough you ask your questions. And so, yeah,
Okay,
they're very,
so what I'm feeling is I'm really feeling okay.
yeah. So they're very happy with you on that end.
Okay, good, good. I'm happy. I'm happy with them. Thank you. Thank you. Well, have a wonderful day and take care. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. And I appreciate having been on your show.
Okay, alrighty.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.